Not me.
Okay, it's 6:30.
Okay.
I'd like to call the Ordinance Committee meeting to order, this being Tuesday, April 9th at 6:30 p.m. With me are Councilors Murphy, Councilors Anderson Burgos, I'm Councilor Vacan, and Councilor Dave Bartley. And general members of the council, Mike Sullivan is with us in the chambers also.
I'll make a motion to take agenda item 1 off the table and open the public hearing.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 1 is a special permit application of Analytics Labs LLC for establishment of a cannabis testing lab at 28C Appleton Street, Suite 3, map 032, block 01, parcel 001. Welcome. If you would like to come in, if it's easier for you to put up your board.
And it seems to be a whole lot of members of the public here,
No.
so I'd like you to get a good look at what's going on.
Okay.
So I'm Jack Farrer, and I'm here representing Analytics Labs.
Jack, the only thing is,
You're gonna have to pick up a
Grab
mic
microphone, yep.
and make sure the green light is on.
or Jack, if you prefer, you can grab the one that's on the mic stand and walk around with that one.
It might be less awkward.
It might be. You don't have to be like Monty Hall. So take that.
Might do my best Bohemian Rhapsody.
Right? And just make sure it's turned on if you would. Yeah.
Thank you, Councilor Bartley.
Don't break it, we can't afford another one.
Test.
Yeah, that's great. Perfect.
Jeez, okay.
Oh, perfect.
Folks at home will be able to hear
People
you.
home want to hear you. I assure you.
Yeah.
Oh, this is live.
It is live. You're on channel
We're-
15.
Right up there.
We're all,
Oh, my goodness.
Cameras all over the place. We're all live.
I think I'm a little light in that area that's being shown right now.
You're all looking good.
All right, so anyway, Jack Farrer, and here is Jerry Gadara, who's the COO of Analytics Labs, and also from Kuhn Riddle is Chris Farley. Thank you, Chris. Sorry about that. And I'd like to start by addressing some comments that came from planning about an hour ago. So the first comment is the locust plan doesn't show building or lot depiction, does not show relation to existing areas, and no improvement plan was provided. So in your packet, you'll see a locust plan. It's right here. So 28C Appleton Street is at towards the very bottom of Appleton Street before you hit Canal. There's an existing business, C&D Electronics, that's at 28. 28C is this space right here, separate entrance and exit off of Appleton Street. So in fact, there is a locust plan, and there are no improvements proposed, so that's why there's no improvement plan. The floor plan, I'm a little bit at a loss. The floor plan is right here, and every single room has the square footage. So it says testing area right here, 1,154 square feet. So there is a floor plan. It does show square footage, and there are no details for fencing because there is no proposed fencing. It's really, this is an existing office suite, and it's just going from, I think the VNA were there.
Is that
Yeah, and so it's just going into a testing area. So it's from office to office. There's really no change of use. And all of the testing equipment is going to be on a table like the one you're sitting at. So there's no construction, there's no anything really that's going on except for bringing in a bunch of testing equipment. There is a lighting plan in your packet. Jerry, what page is that lighting plan on?
It's toward the back. The pages aren't numbered, but there's a security plan with closed caption television.
Okay, so there is, there is a fence, I'm sorry, there is a lighting plan, and there's no trash plan because there is no storage, outside storage of trash. So where you're used to seeing dumpsters fenced in, there's gonna be no outside storage of trash. So it's a startup, it's just gonna be 2 employees. So there is no traffic study for 2 employees. Let's see, so how trash would be managed, well, you know, paper is gonna be bagged up, and then on trash day, it's gonna be put outside in a barrel.
So if I can interject just
Yes,
for a second, I think, and I've only read these things quickly, because we all know when we
Talking to the
got
mic,
this.
Jack, use the mic, okay? Make sure you use a mic, please. Thank you.
So I think the question around the trash is you're gonna be getting in the materials into the lab that will be tested. And so I think the question is more around how are the materials coming in, and then after they're tested, depending on how much quantity there is, what are you doing with it? And all those standard concerns about that.
Sure.
I think that's what they're driving at.
So the samples that come in are about the size of your thumbnail. So the samples, Jerry is going to be picking up samples from different growers, and he's going to be bringing them in here in a locked briefcase. The CCC is going to approve Jerry as a transporter. So he's going to come in, the tester, the chemist, is going to test the materials in the machinery, and then the materials go back to where they came from. So there is no cannabis waste, if you will. No, there's going to be no cannabis thrown out. So they're going to have pieces of paper, like I have at my office, and on trash day, I put a bag out in a barrel, and that's how the trash goes out.
So there's just gonna be regular trash as far as the city is concerned.
Correct. Yeah, no cannabis waste, and Jerry's going to be taking any testing material, which is very small, the size of a quarter, in and out.
Go ahead.
Yes. So that's, I think that's.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah, and just while I'm,
Counselor Bartley.
the trash, so trash isn't generally picked up there by the City of Holyoke. So what, are we making arrangements to?
So the landlord, C&D Electronics, is going to take care of the paper and office waste, a part of the lease. The landlord takes care of that.
In a dumpster?
The landlord has an existing dumpster, yes.
Oh, okay, I just wanted to make, because your situation, your property is different than, because where you're situated. So you have arrangements with the City of Holyoke?
Yeah, I'm a residential area, yes.
Right, so they'll pick up, but you say, so it won't be put at curbside, it'll just be put in a dumpster, or?
Yes, so C&D Electronics has a major chunk of this building, and they have a dumpster, I believe it's over on Canal Street. And so their janitor will come in once a week and take a bag of paper and bring it over with the C&D waste as part of the lease arrangement.
Counselor Anderson Burgos?
Did you have a chance to sit down with the planning board?
Yes, we had a pre-permitting meeting with department heads, and then we had some follow-up with Marcos and Jeff.
There was just several things that they were, it says their locus plan doesn't show building or a depiction, does not show relation to existing areas, and improvements plan was no improvement plans was provided. A questionable floor plan was submitted.
Thank you.
There are no, no details for lighting and fencing, and so on and so forth. So there's several items on here that brings concerns to me. And I just want to make sure if maybe, did you guys go over these things and we can talk and discuss it tonight? But this email was sent today, so I'm confused.
Yep, so we were too. We were surprised by that email. As a matter of fact, we weren't copied on it. We were nice enough to get a copy from one of your fellow counselors. So we're ready to address each and every one
Okay.
of those. So here, this is labeled locus plan. It shows South Canal and Appleton, and it says Analytics Labs, and it has an arrow that goes right to this floor plan.
Okay.
And so this floor plan is the floor plan. So planning says there's no locus plan. Well, here it is. They also say there's no floor plan. Well, here it is. And each of the rooms, so it says testing area, and it says 1,154 square feet. It says no fencing plan because there's no fencing proposed.
Right.
And it says no improvement plan because there is no improvement proposed. It's proposed to bring in some tables, like the one you're sitting at, and put testing equipment on top of a table. There's a picture in your
I don't believe
in the
I
site
have
plan
one.
narrative.
Here I have, you can share that at the
Yeah.
back?
Yeah, so
There's a-
here's actually a photo of what the lab will look like. And then if you go towards the end of that, you'll see the lighting plan. And that was another comment
Oh,
that
sure.
came from planning. There was no lighting plan. And towards the end is, in fact, a lighting plan.
Is there any
Got
biodegradable chemicals like that you'll be disposing of? And if so, how will you be disposing of those?
Yes, so there will be chemicals that get delivered by a chemical company like that brings oxygen to a nursing home. They'll bring in chemicals and they'll secure them to the wall. And we've talked to the fire department about what they want, and the fire department's happy. And then when that tank is empty, they'll come and take the empty tank, and then whatever waste there is from chemicals goes into a drum. And when that gets filled up enough, you hire a hazardous waste contractor to come in and take it away off-site. So there's no outside storage. Everything is within this office suite.
And there's no disposing of chemicals, right?
No, nothing goes down the drain.
Okay.
No, yeah, absolutely not. You can't do that.
So
Yes.
just so you know, we'll need a letter from the fire department and a letter from the police department relative to those points?
Absolutely.
Okay. And have you provided anybody with a copy of the lease that stipulates the trash component?
Yes, that was part of the application.
All right, let me
the
double
lease.
check. I might have flipped by it quick.
No, and we're happy to provide another one. We can
Well, it may be here.
send an
It may
email
be here.
out.
I just don't want to do a search and retrieve mission if it's not.
No, it's easy enough for me to find. I'm getting fairly organized in my electronic folders.
Much easier.
I don't know, they can get pretty deep, those filing folders. Okay, I do see the lease, thank you.
Oh, good.
And in it, you said is the trash is addressed.
Yes,
Okay.
trash removal, yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
we can get it, if for some reason you don't find it, I believe it's there because I drafted the lease. But if not, we can get a letter from the landlord that says included is trash removal of office trash.
Okay. And, okay, so, and I'm just saying these things as we go because likely they will, or potentially they will become part of the conditions of a special permit.
Sure.
So that it would be stipulated that there will be no cannabis or chemical trash for disposal. That would be one of the conditions. I'm just being anticipatory.
That, yes, and that would be a friendly condition.
Counselor Murphy?
Yeah, I thought you just said the chemicals would be stored until then you brought in a hazardous waste people to dispose of them. So that would be disposal of a chemical at some point.
So I'm sorry, I thought you meant disposal down the drain. So there would be, so the removal of hazardous chemicals would only be by licensed professionals, would be the friendly condition.
So there'll be no, but there will be no cannabis trash,
Correct.
but the chemical trash. So what we would want to see in, as part of the plan, would be that BFI or some other qualified, that there would be an agreement as to whoever it would be that would be taking that away.
Yeah, so I think that was part of the submission.
Is it?
Yeah, it's in the narrative
Okay.
of the plan.
Okay.
There are a number of different organizations, but
Right, right. And I don't mean to be promoting one over another. It's just one I knew. I have no stock or financial interest in it.
Full
For full
disclosure.
disclosure. I'm just taking a look, just so I can,
Take your time.
yeah.
Well, not that long. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Being funny.
Are you timing?
No.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna take your word on it that it's here and not take a whole lot of time to search through
Yeah, do you
it
know
at
which
the moment.
page that, so I think it was Safe Harbor that you mentioned, or?
yeah, I responded to the questions as outlined in the regulations, and one of them was.
Jerry?
trash.
You gotta
Is the mic on?
You hit the button and then,
Green means go.
Hold on.
Green.
and then just tilt it, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so we can come back to you once you find that
Okay.
page number that it's on, and we'll entertain
It's
other
just helpful that
questions.
I can check things
Oh,
out.
absolutely.
Okay.
This is the first, to my knowledge, is the first testing facility
It is,
that's come
it
in
is.
front of Holyoke, so,
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes, so-
we want to get it right.
So you are breaking new ground, and we just want to make sure we, follow all the things in the ordinance and the state,
We
et cetera.
we want a safe operation, we don't want anybody to get hurt.
Counselor Leahy?
Oh, I think he's found the reference that we were looking for.
The reference in 2 points, to point 4 in the site plan narrative, which is,
This, okay.
I begin with project overview on page 1, or page 2 if you don't count the cover. So it's point number 4, demands on city services and infrastructure. I note the fact that any solutions used by the lab in our sampling of products will be managed in accordance to local, state, and federal regulations. And then in point 8, I get more specific and I say we will contract with the hazardous waste management company to handle all of our testing byproducts, including any sample waste, used solvent material, or other testing detritus, meaning leftover
Okay.
stuff.
So, if I may suggest that reference to those state and federal regulations regarding disposal, that would be a friendly condition.
Right. Okay,
And I think would, cover what you're concerned about.
yeah. So we jumped in there on you, but we're happy to let you continue.
No, that's really it.
Okay.
All it is an existing office suite, bringing in some tables, bringing in some equipment, 2 employees, Jerry coming in and out probably twice a week, come in on a Tuesday with some samples, go back out on Thursday when the samples are done, and, no improvements, no walls coming down, no walls going up, no new doors, no new fences, and there is a lighting plan, there is a locust plan, there is a floor plan.
Can you just run down the lighting plan for us? And just to be precise, I know you're only saying 2 employees, but are you anticipating any more in the future? And can we see the parking and how many spaces there are?
So there's just on-street parking.
On street.
On Appleton, and so with 2 cars, so there's gonna be no public access at all, and that would be a friendly condition, and that would address your traffic concerns. No public access, only employees. And sure, like any business, they hope that they go, in 2 years, they go from 2 people to 4 people. But there's never gonna be 20 in this space. And Jerry, can I just borrow that lighting plan?
This is the third page from the end.
So 3rd page from the end shows the lighting plan.
In the entryway.
So this is outside entering into the building?
Correct.
Yes. Yeah, we didn't think, showing a bunch of fluorescent lights on the
Right.
inside.
So it's more, I think, the security aspect of the lighting that they're looking at?
Yes, and the police department has reviewed this full security plan, which has cameras, lighting, everything that the police department wants.
And all we need is the little letter.
And yes, and we've been in touch with Captain Moriarty. He's done the letter for us many times in the past. They all kind of look the same, that it's a
Right.
working document.
Right.
And so we expect to have that, certainly before we get to the full council.
Sure. Counselor Bartley?
Yeah, and I don't want to interrupt your train of questioning or Jack's narrative, so but at some point, I just want to hear about the actual business itself for the Analytics Lab and where the other, because I'm not very familiar with it, other than there was some bottleneck from the CCC to get vendors approved because there weren't enough labs to provide the necessary testing. So I just want to hear about that at some point. Then I also want to hear about when Jerry comes into town, into what kind of vehicle, and he parks in front of 28C Appleton, that I want to understand that he's taking what I understand is cannabis products in a briefcase or some kind of box.
Locked briefcase.
Okay, well, but he's going to be walking in by himself and walking from his car on the sidewalk into a door. I just want to know how I assume that's all on camera. And right, yeah, I don't want to, but I just want to hear how that works and what the security is for that as well. And so I might have a couple of follow-up questions, but that, generally, so I want to hear about the business in itself and the scope of
Sure.
analytics, and then just the security steps when he's delivering the product, and kind of, what days of the week are we doing this?
So I'll start there. Unlike dispensaries, this is a Monday through Friday, 8 to 6 operation. So it's standard business hours. No after-hours deliveries, no after-hours testing.
And so we'll put that as a condition on the permit.
Yes, that's a friendly condition.
Okay.
8 to 6, I
Okay.
think, would be friendly condition.
All right.
So as to my knowledge, there's 3 labs that are permitted right now by the CCC or licensed by the CCC. The furthest one west right now is Framingham, and so there is a bottleneck to get product to market, and so this would help folks from the Berkshires to Worcester get their product tested.
Yeah, I just wanted you or the applicant to sort of expand upon exactly what that bottleneck means. So in other words, if Jerry and Chris's business come online, how would that impact the bottleneck? And so maybe your clients, if you would, if they could just speak to that a little bit, because I want to hear about. But you just keep going, Jack. But I just
yeah,
wanna...
no. So I'll ask Jerry to expand, but just in general, the bottleneck is the middle of the hourglass, and up top are the growers, and at the bottom are the dispensaries, and so product is not getting from the growers and from the growers essentially to the dispensaries fast enough, and so there's not as much volume at the dispensaries as there could be, which means there's not as much host community money coming to the municipalities that there could be to be used for police, fire, teachers, everything else that cities spend their money on.
Okay, so that means, so Jerry's business contracts with growers?
Correct.
Okay, Jerry's doesn't contract with dispensaries, just with, so after he's licensed by CCC, which you anticipate is going to happen in June of this year, per your, I think your narrative.
Yes.
Okay, and then his business model is such that, so he's licensed, he's going to reach out to various growers and his contract directly with them, and part of that contract is he's going to pick up the product, bring the product to City of Holyoke, test the product, and then...
Bring it back.
Oh, okay, so it's...
Do you even bring it back?
I do. I have to. So there's an inventory tracking system that I'm required by the CCC to maintain.
Everything's bar-coded.
So when, if I pick up a product in the Berkshires, for example, I bring it back, I weigh it, barcode it, we take the sample, we process it, we get the results, with the results, we wrap them up with the byproduct that's left. We're required to keep records of that by the CCC in our database tracking system, and we return it to the grower, that manufacturer that gave us that product. They too are in turn required to track it.
So, Councilor Bartley, so it would be testing for growers and also for manufacturers. So you might be taking in an oil or edible or something other than flour. I'm getting better at the verbiage of this.
Any
industry.
cannabis product, whether it's a flower, which means traditional leaf, a gummy bear, a cookie, a chocolate, whatever product, has to be tested separately, even if it's from the same batch, even if it's from the same plant.
But you're testing it from the producer, or you could be testing it from a retailer?
Not from the retailers.
Always
Not
the
from retail.
producer.
So,
Always from the
retailers,
producer before it gets to retail.
they can't sell it unless it's got my seal of approval.
Okay.
Jerry, so I just want to use the right language. So, no, it's okay, because we're just kind of free form. So it's from a manufacturer and then from a
Cultivator.
cultivator. Okay, I just want to make sure I'm using the right words.
Basically 3 kind of licenses from the CCC. Well, I'm sorry.
7.
No, 7. So I'm sorry, but the way I think of it, there are 3 major ones.
Right.
There's growers, there's manufacturers, and there's dispensaries. So the growers have either indoor or outdoor greenhouses. Manufacturers take the leaves and extract it into usually oils, and then use the oils to make the gummies, the brownies, the whatever else you manufacture. And then the dispensaries sell it at retail and have the cash register. So this is the in-between the growers, manufacturers up top, and the dispensaries at the bottom is the independent testing lab, which is what we're proposing.
And the main point of that is that they're required by the CCC. You can't sell a cannabis product in Massachusetts if it has not been tested by an independent testing lab.
So I've been reading about that, and there were, Attorney Farrer said there's 3 other testing labs been approved?
There are 2 fully licensed and 1 that has a conditional license.
And so where are they, Jerry?
2 of them are in Framingham, believe it or not, and 1 of them is in Salem. Ours is in the hopper, so to speak. It's the next one up, and then there's one that's going to be opening up in Milford, I believe.
So
That's behind
south of
us.
495, yeah.
I mean, part of what we're pitching here is that we're the only one in Western Mass. We want to serve the Western Mass market. We think there's a rather growing opportunity in Western Mass than there is in the eastern part of the state.
Okay. I don't, no, I let everybody jump in. I don't want to monopolize, but at some point, I just want to hear about the security thing too, but, so just keep
So-
going.
Delisi? Oh,
I want to ask, so just to be really clear, you're testing for like the potency of the product or what?
There are 5 major categories of testing that we're doing. The potency is really only one, and it's not the most significant and important because most manufacturers are already testing their potency levels because that's what they're selling in many ways. We're testing for toxins, pesticides, heavy metals. There's a long laundry list of testing that we are required to do by the CCC. And then we have the various pieces of equipment. We have 4 or 5 different pieces of equipment that are required to do that testing, mostly spectrometers, mass spectrometers, gas spectrometers, and that's all the tabletop equipment that we're talking about.
So all the growers and manufacturers, they do their own testing, but the CCC says that before a consumer can touch a product, that it has to be independently tested as a double check, if you will, checks and balances. And security, Councilor Bartley, we were asked by the City Council not to submit security plans.
in its detail.
Right,
Right.
right. So, but the security is certainly, cameras everywhere these days. I'm sure there's a couple. So certainly cameras at the sidewalk, certainly lots of lighting, even though they're, only time that it's going to be dark at business hours is going to be during the night, but and it's going to be so really the most expensive stuff in here is the testing equipment. So you can be darn sure that the lab that's spending a lot of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars on testing equipment, is going to make sure that nobody can walk out with their testing equipment because they'll be out of business. The samples are going to essentially be worthless. So nobody's going to break in to get these quarter-size samples of cannabis.
And then I want to ask one more question. So it's moving backwards a little bit. So in the point that Marcos raised about the floor plan, I know I can see from here that there now are square footage denoted on there. But
So Councilor Anderson Burgos has my copy, but
Another copy here.
I'm sorry. So you'll note that it was originally submitted March 28th, and then it says revised April 4th. And you please,
have a revised April
Yeah,
4th on
we
here.
do
Okay.
have that.
so this plan is in there with the square footage. Jerry, do you know?
I have a couple more copies here if you want to.
You know what? There's a whole appendix of supporting documents that we don't actually have. We just have the PDF.
Hang on, because maybe.
Oh,
Take the
okay.
ones that are printed out.
So here's a printout. Jeez, I wish I could read this. April 1st,
Yeah, I think that they're,
stamped by Kuhn Riddle.
what we have are,
Yes. So
well, it's just the file as opposed to the actual content. So, and we're limited, so this entire operation is limited to Office 3, what's being called Suite 3?
no. So it's everything that you see on this floor plan.
Okay. I don't think that was clear.
Yeah, because there's an entranceway, there's security, there's a receiving room that's got double locked doors. So there is quite a bit of security to Councilor Bartley's. So there's a vestibule, security once you come in the door, you got to get buzzed in. Security to check on Jerry, and then the receiving room, and then the testing area.
Okay, so you're using this whole, the entire space here.
As it sits.
As is. So all of the tables are going to be in this testing area, the large space that's 1,154 square feet.
Yep.
This is just pretty much extra space that's not needed, but the landlord said this is the suite that's available, and so you either take it or you don't.
Okay, that helps, thank you.
Yeah, sorry we didn't provide the maps or the plans and.
There is.
But we submitted this to the city clerk as hard copies. So
I have
whatever the clerk,
the site plan narrative that we have the 3 copies of.
yes.
And that includes this in the back.
Yes.
But the other larger one was not. I don't see it other than here. Can we keep this?
Absolutely, yes.
I'll put it
And
with it.
hopefully you have that lighting plan too, all the,
We have the interior one, but not an exterior photometric plan, which is something that they noted in the review.
so that's part of the security plan, which is over with Captain Moriarty. We can take
If you could
out
just break out that piece.
photometric piece and send it, we'll file it with Clerk McGee, and we'll get it to, we'll
Planning.
get it to planning, and
Okay.
we'll send a PDF to everybody on this committee as well.
Okay,
A real PDF, not just a little.
all right.
But sorry, just to add, the plan that shows the security does show where the lighting is in the entryway. So I think that's the second to last page in the
In
document.
the site plan narrative?
In the site plan narrative, right? There's a page that shows where the cameras.
So this one,
Yeah,
so,
The cameras.
there's one with cameras, and there's one that shows the lighting outside in the entryway.
Oh, the wall lighting packs.
Yeah, and that's what we reference in our security plan that we filed with the police.
Oh, and then they're showing.
and here's
motion detectors.
exterior, this is exterior right here. So this is Appleton Street. So this would be exterior lighting, and this here at the entryway would be exterior lighting as well.
So, and the planning folks have this, right?
They do, yes.
Yeah, but I
So-
think they still want to know
maybe what's in the security plan.
No. I think usually the
Lumens.
photometric plan is the volume and like the, I don't know, the rate of lighting that you're using.
I think
the
it'd be
brightness,
lumens.
like when they were putting in.
I've referenced them in my site plan narrative. Outdoor lighting, 0.9.
I found the 1 candle foot somewhere, but
Yep.
Is that that's in the narrative?
Is that a long paragraph, Jerry, or can you
Number
just read
9?
it?
Sole egress to Appleton Street for Suite 3 is a secured entryway that will be well lighted by energy-efficient LED lighting that will be contained to the greatest extent possible to our access entryway so it doesn't overflood. We will maintain minimum light levels of 1.0 candle foot at ground level for our walkway and stair access. As part of a security plan filed with the Holyoke Police Department, we plan to install cameras and sensor-triggered lighting to ensure safety and security of our staff and customers. Lighting specifications are outlined in our lighting plan, which is submitted as part of the security plan only with
And
the
I
police.
think because they read lighting plan, then they're looking for the lighting plan.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
w-
so I think it's that.
So we will
Well,
pull
the
out
packet has it.
that, if you'd like, we can pull out the photometric piece of the security plan and send that to you separately instead of leaving
Yeah, I
it
mean,
with the police
Yes,
department.
because
Okay.
it's been recommended to us that we should not have, and it shouldn't be out in the public more, the details of a security plan, for obvious reasons,
Sure.
right? But to the extent that the planning folks, and they're doing their due diligence, and I think some of the questions may be coming out of the fact that with all the other projects, there were changes to the buildings, there were parking changes, there's been more employees. This is a little different animal from the other applications. And I'm not sure it was clear to them that you were just using it as is. Do you know? So they saw the plan of what it is, but they didn't make the assumption that that's what it would still be. Yeah, so, unless you tell them.
Well, we
You
have.
know what I mean?
We have a couple
Whatever.
times,
But
but we
anyway.
will again. We will
So
again.
here's the
Yeah.
thing. So with these remaining questions, because on March 4th or 5th, or whatever date it was, I got a thing where they basically said there was a lot of stuff missing.
Correct. That
So
was-
then, I
We
was
knew
at,
they wanted a stamp, so that's why Kuhn Riddle came on board, and so we have stamp
Mm-hmm.
drawings.
and so last night when I was at a different meeting, I touched base with Marcos because the last thing I had was March 4th.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's why we have this before us. Because
Okay.
there's been a lot of different applications in the file, and I think maybe which path certain ones are on was not clear. So I said, if you could provide us something, it would be helpful for us and the applicant. And then hopefully tonight, we're gonna get down to the short list of what remains to be provided to check off
Yes, please.
what remains.
Yes.
And then hopefully we'll, I'll be in the room and get it done, hopefully, at the next meeting. I'm not seeing a whole lot of unusual items of concern.
Yeah, we would just
Murphy?
like to be able to, Jerry, if you could take notes of what everybody wants. I know the photometric plan, separated from the security plan, is one of them.
The
And-
letter from the fire department and the police department.
Yep, fire and police.
One is relative to storage, because you have the chemicals, and
Fire about-
just general.
Yes.
And the other is the security.
Safety, yeah.
And then the other things we talked about are the hours and the days. And the other thing that I think would be helpful, not that I would say who you should pick, I think it would be helpful to the application if you pick who will be your waste management company.
Okay.
It just makes it a little
Make sure they're licensed.
stronger.
Yeah. There's a couple other things. So it says that the development impact statement is incomplete as well as the traffic impact statement. And I understand that you're saying that there's not going to be any additional trip generation, but there's some sort of like official chart that you would use to substantiate, and I forget where that chart comes from, but it should be available through like Mass DOT, I believe, or,
So I looked at the GTI application for their special permit, as well as a couple of other ones that the planning department staff were helpful enough to provide me with. And there were charts there, and I started putting together a chart for myself. and it just seemed like an absurdist exercise. So I'm happy to do that, but it would,
We will do it.
I think you
Sorry.
just have to reference the.
We'll do it.
You just have to reference the reg.
Right, so I think it's like engineering traffic
There's a
society or
it's a
something.
number and a name.
Trip generation.
Yeah,
Something.
they're like means for different types of industries. So if you're putting
Okay.
up a fast food,
Yep.
place, or, I don't know, medical place, they say, well, this type of establishment at this many square feet will serve this many people, generate this many trips.
Sure.
And I think all you need to do is reference this
That there
chart
won't be
and
any.
say, there's not,
There
we
won't
we
be
don't, we don't fall on the chart in
Yeah.
some way, shape, or form.
well,
but-
right, and
but
in fact,
reference
I mean,
it.
that's part of what I say in my petition. We're actually formally requesting a waiver of the traffic impact study based on the low.
Well, then that would eliminate their question,
Well,
if they were waived.
yes, exactly. So I'm not sure who would grant that waiver.
You.
I think as the permit, you are the permit granting authority. So I think you would recommend to the full city council a waiver of a traffic study because they're $20,000 and we're talking
Oh,
about.
no. It's not a traffic study. It's just a traffic impact statement, which is referencing that chart and saying,
Okay.
our business generates this much traffic.
So we'll
If you-
Google trip generation
It
and
should
we'll
be
come
in
up
one of
with
the
a
Applications
analysis.
that you have,
I
that
think,
reference.
I think I saw something like that in the GTI one, and I'll look it
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
But
you
we-
just
we're
look it up,
still
and if
gonna be-
it's not applicable, you can say per this.
But we're
Right.
still, I can include that or make reference to it,
Yes.
but then I'd like to continue a petition to a waiver of the traffic impact study, the broader one that Jack was talking.
Yeah, that would be fine.
Okay,
But I think we still need to have the impact statement available.
From that.
okay.
We
That
will-
that would
Reg, or
substantiate
whatever it
the
is.
the
Yeah,
decision.
we can do an
Right.
in-house
Right, we need the
trip
backup.
generation. So I think trip generation
yeah, I
is
think
the term of art that I've heard.
And it's a professional, like traffic engineer society.
I remember seeing that for sure.
Thank you.
And so I'm going to have to say, I don't know why Marcos is saying that the development impact statement is incomplete. He doesn't give us a lot of reason as to why. I mean, I feel like you are going through point by point the sections of our ordinance and highlighting how you address those issues, but we may want to just double check with Marcos what he is referring to there, because it's kind of like a blind spot for us.
We will continue to try. Jerry put in a couple calls to Marcos today and was not successful, but we'll keep trying.
According to the thing dated to yesterday, April 8th, it looks like the photometric plan is kind of key to it, because that's the only thing that's making changes to the exterior.
Right.
And
So
they talk about it in item 4 of their letter.
right. So we got that at 5:30,
Yeah.
like you did, and
Yeah.
so we'll go through it. But we
Yeah.
will. We have agreed, and Jerry has a note that we're going to pull out the photometric plan from the security plan that's at the police department, and we'll give you
Yep.
the photometric plan separately as a separate document.
Oh, so I see. So it is, so when he's talking about the development impact statement being incomplete, it's because of these few individual points along the way. So just adding a bit more narrative to some of these points. And if you have
It's easy enough.
the write-up that he did, it should be pretty straightforward.
I don't have a copy yet of Marcos's email, but I'll get it from
He
him.
did say he would send it on to you, so.
Well, I sent it to you, so you have it
Oh,
now.
But
I
you
just
have it, okay, so you're, all right, as long
Yeah,
as you have it.
thank
It
you
was a
for.
late-breaking
Right,
news.
right.
Yes. That's all
Okay.
right. We're good on our feet.
Counselor Murphy.
So just a couple, so I'm trying to familiarize yourself with all this that's going on here. So we have some cultivators that we've just licensed or that we gave special permits to recently.
Yep.
So if I'm reading this correctly, once they have a product, or a flower, I think you said that was,
That's it.
I'm gonna get your terminology down here in my old age.
Flour, edibles,
Okay, so if the cultivator has flower that they want to sell to a producer, they would have to come to your testing facility to verify that it meets the standards.
Correct.
And then, once the manufacturer produced products from those flowers, they would also have to come back to you, correct?
That's right.
And if they are producing different products from that flower, if that's possible, I assume it is, then do they have to show you all the products that they produce and get a sample of all of them, or just a product?
Every batch has to be tested, and every product that's different from the other product within the batch has to be tested. So the same batch could be tested multiple times.
Yeah, so if one batch of flour is gonna be sold as flour, it's gonna be sold as gummies, gonna be sold as cookies, then it's gonna be tested 4 times.
Okay.
Same batch of flour.
Okay. So, and I know you're the only one that's going to be picking up and delivering at this point, correct?
The way that the CCC works is that as part of my license, I will be designated as the agent of Analytics Labs. Therefore, I'll be allowed to be the transport agent.
So that's a license. A transporter is a license. So there'd be an independent testing lab license,
Right.
and there'd be a transporter license.
So, and again, assuming, it seems like there's a lot of cannabis activities going on. So, how many trips do you think you would make in a day?
So we're thinking that there'll be 2 trips a week because you're carrying a briefcase.
Oh.
So if all goes well, Jerry will go out to the Berkshires, pick up stuff there, maybe go to Springdale, pick up stuff there, come in, takes a couple days to test it, and then he'll bring the product and the results back to the manufacturer or the grower.
Okay.
Now,
So
if business booms,
Yeah.
then, maybe it's,
Every day.
in one day and, in the next day and then 2 days out. But it kind of looks like the most you'd have, even if you were very busy, would be 2 trips in a week and 2 trips out a week.
Okay, and that's at maximum, everything's going well, you've got all your clients in good shape?
Well, I left my crystal ball in my other suit, but, who knows? Who knows?
And then lastly, in terms of tables, are we talking just one table? Are we talking multiple tables? And are we testing more than one product at a time?
No, I anticipate there are 4 pieces of equipment that are needed. And I anticipate I could fit them all on 2 6-foot, on an L of 2 6-foot tables. And the part of the reason, the main reason we have that much space is because it's available. We don't need that much space. When I looked to do it in Amherst, where I live, I was looking at a much smaller space. But there's more space available here at Appleton Street. So I see it as an opportunity for expansion. I think I would be able to add workstations just in that main, what we call that?
Testing area.
The testing area. I think I could fit 4 different lab stations there eventually. 2, they're all L's. But I don't, to set up a whole lab with all the equipment that I needed, it's close to $1 million of equipment. So I don't anticipate having funds to do that too soon.
Last question would be, is there any state or federal requirement in terms of how long it can be there to be tested?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't think so. The testing process itself takes 2 to 4 days, depending on which test you're doing. And not every grower will ask for every test, although you need every test to be able to sell it. But they might be doing it for their own internal purposes, like potency, I think somebody mentioned.
Terry, I think that's going to be driven more by the growers and the manufacturers who are paying for the tests. They're going to say, we'll pay you, I'm just making up a number, $500 per test, but we want it back in 3 days. So I think I don't think there's any, to my knowledge, there's no state or federal, there's certainly no federal regulation.
Right, right.
So there's
move that out.
to my knowledge, there's no state
legal.
regulation that requires the duration time. But I would think that the customer would say, there's a bottleneck, so turn this around quickly, and we'll only pay you the $500 for the test if you get it back to us in 3 days.
The regulations will be market forces.
Okay, so I'll ask one more question and then that'll be it. So only one chemist So whatever, or tester, whatever you want to call them, but if that person happens to end up with the flu, what do you do?
You wait. Right now.
You
right
give
now,
her,
you wait.
you give her medicine. You hold on. I mean, we're not, we're starting really bare bones. If we get to the point where we have such demand that we need to hire more people, that'd be great. I'd love to bring more business to town.
I'm gonna ask a related question, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
So, so there's the permit for the, the license. The license for the transporting, you're the agent, right? But then you could have multiple chemists doing mass spectrometry or whatever, without having to get additional licenses for those individuals, or do they all need to be licensed?
No. I would be the agent for Analytics Labs, and part of my agent status allows me to be a transporter. That's what we're talking about here in terms of that.
So the
But then there's
chemist-
additional license from the state for the research, right?
No, not
For the running of the samples.
Of the equipment, no.
It's a license to Analytics Labs LLC, so it's not to the chemist.
Okay, that's fine. So you could hire people as you need.
Yes,
and
I
as
wouldn't
you
have.
the
I would not
equipment.
have to go back to the CCC to change staff. In fact, they only ask
To hire a
who
second
the agent is
chemist,
going to be. You know, and that would be me in this case.
And there'd be query checks on Jerry, on chemists, whoever was working there would go through.
Required by the CCC?
Yes, part of the CCC process. Yeah, fingerprints, the full 9 yards of query check.
So my question is, are you waiting to seek the license to be the transport agent until after the special permit is granted? Or is that something you're seeking now so that you're going to stipulate to us as granting the permit that you have it?
So to be clear, when I'm applying for an independent testing lab license, as part of that process, if I'm identified as the agent for Analytics Labs, I'm allowed to go and travel to pick up those samples to be tested. There's a separate category license called a transport license that involves vehicles and the rest of that, where you actually provide a transport service to someone like me or someone
Okay,
like,
and you're not doing that?
We're not doing that for now, but if we find that there's a volume demand for that, and I don't want to be the one who's driving around all over Western Mass, then I could hire somebody and I would go through the licensing process.
All right, and then you'd need a separate
You need a separate
amendment to
license,
your
and then
special permit
Right,
at that time if you're changing your operation.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So we
Okay.
anticipate that we will not have, I think every other special permit that you've given, the folks who applied to you did not have their CCC license.
Correct.
So you're conditioning our opening on obtaining a CCC license. So that would be one of the friendly conditions, is that we can't open the doors.
That's what I was trying to sort of drill down to. Okay, so we would add that. Okay.
Every now and then I catch on.
well, there's a bit
Well,
of
I wasn't there yet, so.
there's a bit of a cart before the horse
I
in this
just
whole
wasn't
CCC
sure which
process,
order.
which is
Yeah.
difficult to follow. But
All right. And so now, on to signs.
None,
NA, that's an easy answer.
none.
And in your lease, which I haven't read, does the landlord stipulate that the building and the entryway is handicapped accessible?
It is not.
It is not.
It is not.
Okay, so hang on.
It's, because there's no
Public access either.
So you don't
public
really.
access, there's no construction going on, so there's no trigger.
So the reason I brought it up is because it's in this letter
Sure.
from planning. But I think they were thinking people might be coming in. I don't know. I just,
Yeah, so.
I don't think they assumed they weren't.
So we
So,
would, once again, a friendly
NA.
condition would be, no public access, and I think that would do away with the requirement of handicap access.
All right. All right, so does anybody else see anything off the top that we haven't covered in the, all right. Anybody have any other questions?
No, I just want to,
Counselor Bartley?
we are in a public hearing, so we'll have to hear from the public, as you know, but.
Is there, yeah, I'm
Well,
just
so-
looking, make sure we didn't
Well-
block anybody
Well, so at
out.
some point when Attorney Ferrer is done, he can just sort of disassemble everything, and then the applicants can step back. Just as far as our our friendly conditions, our standard ones that we've inputted. Attorney Farrer is very I don't have them memorized, but Attorney Farrer's been here enough, and they're on all of them. And I know I wasn't here the last time because I was with my parents in Florida, but one of the conditions was removed, despite the fact that the applicant never asked for it to be removed.
I know.
Which was unbelievable.
Yeah.
But we just removed it on our own volition. But I just want to make sure that our standard conditions, so far as they're applicable,
Right.
are and then the ones that Attorney Farrer also referenced, hours of operation, no public access, that sort of thing. I think, and then the license, the permit is conditioned upon Jerry procuring the necessary license from the commission. Those are the
Right.
ones I think we raised tonight. And then we have our standard ones, Jack, which you're familiar, I'm sure you've about.
Right, so
Yes.
I don't have them all memorized either, but for their hours, they stipulated Monday through Friday, 8 to 6,
That's
which is
right.
a shorter window than I believe the standard.
That's right.
So if they wish to have that, we're not gonna argue with them.
So we just had a request, could we add Saturday?
Oh.
So Monday through Saturday, 8 to 6.
And what hours, Jerry?
8 AM to
I think we
6.
should just,
8 to 6 each day?
8 to 6 would give us the flexibility.
I have no problem with that.
The reason I want to add Saturday is because I'm not sure how many days it's going to take a test, and if we promise to give
Right.
somebody a test back results in a week,
Monday through Saturday, 8 AM to 6 PM.
right? That doesn't mean just that someone's going to be working there 8 AM to 6 PM every Monday through Saturday, because I'd probably lose my scientists like that.
So that'd be the maximum.
Right, and we do have the employment goals relative to Holyoke.
Right.
So,
That's, fine for goals.
but they have 2 employees.
Well, I mean, just if it goes up to 4, 10, or
Then,
15.
Yeah, if there is
Yeah.
hiring, yep. So there's already, a chemist.
and then you're not gonna have physical security, which is what the retailers.
That was another one, yeah, I
And the
don't,
cultivators
doesn't sound like you're
have.
gonna have physical security there.
So that's a difference.
No, not with 2 people, not with no public access.
And not with, there's no product essentially.
Right.
But for the
It's-
small amount that you do have there, will you secure it at the end of the workday somehow?
I have to, by CCC regulations, I have to track it, and it has to be in a secured space.
Safe or some such thing?
Yeah, so you'll see in the plan that we have there, the entryways, we call it a receiving room. It'll have lockers.
Okay.
And that's where we'll keep,
Okay.
cultivator A goes into cultivator A's locker, and we track it, and then we send it back out. We
Then if I-
lock it empty, so.
And then
Councilor
just to the chair, what's our, are we, after we hear from the public,
Yeah,
we're gonna table this tonight? Is that?
we have to.
We have to,
Because we're waiting
Okay.
on police, fire, light.
So after we hear from the public, we'll close up, we'll continue the public hearing to a date certain.
Correct.
And I think if I saw right, in the legal notices, we have another ordinance meeting in 2 weeks.
We do.
Okay, so, and I know the chair has been kind of keeping it to 1 per month, but March, I mean, sorry.
And we have a lot of traffic to deal
But
with.
April will be a little different, so.
Yeah.
Would, Attorney Farrer, would you be under the impression that you'll have your materials in 2 weeks?
Yes.
Okay, so after we hear, if I may.
Sure.
Just, why don't we hear from the,
Right.
hear from the public, pro and con?
I
and
don't
then-
see
and
any
then-
other
And then we can
questions
make the
from the-
appropriate motions to continue for 2 weeks.
And I don't see any other questions from counselors,
Okay,
so
so-
it would be in order to seek input from the public in
motion to
favor.
open the public hearing?
We already did that.
The public hearing's
But
open.
we did that when we
Yeah,
started the meeting.
yeah, so now we're just hearing from any members of the public who wish to speak in favor or in opposition to the special permit.
Hearing none?
Not,
Done? Okay.
not seeing anyone who wishes to speak.
I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing until
April 23rd.
April 23rd at 6:30 PM.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Just one question. I think you have another public hearing on that night. Would we be before that one or after that one?
They're both at 6:30, so whenever
We,
she's-
we set them for the same time. Well, if, this is what I would recommend, that, like, we have this little letter right here that has all these little things that are mostly gonna be NA or C attached. If that was all buttoned up and sent out to us before, then because it shouldn't take a long time, we'd probably put yours first.
Okay, so we'll get you things, maybe we'll shoot for a week ahead of time, so a week from now.
Yeah, even 3 days,
And if you could just let us know for planning purposes, whether you think it's buttoned up at that point, and we should be here.
Well, I can't
at six-
prejudge the work of the committee, but I can say that if you answer all the questions, we'll take it first. I can't predict the
Fair enough,
answers.
fair enough, thank you.
Ahead of
Yeah,
time.
Thank you.
Can I just
I'd
address?
be a lot richer.
just wanna-
Your
just wanna-
crystal ball.
I just want to address legal for 1 second.
Motion to suspend rules for legal. All in favor?
Aye. Crystal, would you just do us a kindness, or me in particular, just to email to me and to, or the committee, and I guess, and to Attorney Fareder, just our standard conditions? I can't remember them, if you would.
I don't have those because I don't draft anything for the special permits.
You know who,
But
They would all be-
they'd already be,
I actually have them.
Oh, okay.
I just don't
I can send you one.
have them in front of me.
well,
We've been with
I came up
every-
with them, but I just can't remember what they are. I just want to have them all in front of us, so.
Yeah, I have a PDF. I can,
Yeah,
I'm getting
just-
good
just
at
so we're all on the-
organizing my
We're on the
PDF.
same
so
page.
I'll send it
Okay,
to you.
Great.
Okay, all right, thank you.
That's it.
Okay, so, are we all set with?
We're good. Move on to,
Thank you so much.
Scheduling?
We'll get
So
out
we'll
here.
see you on the 23rd at 6:30.
Appreciate your time. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to suspend our rules and take item number 10
Second.
up out of order.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Item 10, filed by Counselor Sullivan.
Can we actually take up item number 4? Because I think that's what these folks are here for. Or I thought one of the guys was here for
Well,
that.
Counselor Sullivan asked that we take up number 10,
Oh, okay.
whatever it is. Counselor Sullivan, are you okay with number 4 going first?
Yeah, go ahead, and my suggestion, we might want to take 9 and 10 as a package.
Well, there's all the sign ones, I was gonna take them all up together.
Yeah.
So how about if we do 4 and then jump to all the sign ones?
Okay,
Well-
motion to
That's
take-
good with you?
Motion to
Well-
take up agenda item.
9 and 10 are
We'll go to
specific
10
for one
first.
particular,
We'll go to 10
okay, if you,
first.
all right, whatever,
But can we go to, do you mind if we go to 4?
go ahead.
Okay, motion to take 4 off the table?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 4, filed by Vacant Murphy, ordered that the single disbursement from the vacant building revolving fund in the amount of $100,000 be utilized for the demolition costs associated with 107 Clemente Street. Item 5, Vacant Murphy, ordered that the limit on the total amount which may be expended from the vacant building revolving fund be amended from $50,000 to $100,000. So in the interest of proper order, we'll actually have to do 5 first.
Well, we can take them up as a package and
Well,
then
we
just
are,
act on
we
them
are, but I mean,
separately.
just technically, the council would have to approve 5 before we could do 4.
Yeah.
That was like, something that happened with some other order.
But I only agreed to take 4 out of order.
Then we're not taking 10.
We'll talk fast. Thank you for coming in. So we had started discussion on this, and then we realized we had to make changes in order to be able to do it. And so then there was some further questions at city council relative to the use of the fund and relative to why this property, I guess, was, anybody can correct me
Wow.
if I'm missing
Well, and then
anything.
the one point was, in terms of revolving funds, we don't like to leave too much money outside of the general fund, so I think we would want to hear more from the building commissioner about whether or not a $100,000 cap is appropriate for the fund moving forward, or if it could be brought back down to the $50,000 point after this one transaction.
Okay.
The floor is yours.
So first, just understand that the revolving fund's a Board of Health maintained fund. I think I've mentioned that before, but
Right.
it's not in my department. And it was made up some time ago with restrictions on what we could use it for, which is demolition, cleanups of properties related to Board of Health needs. And they haven't really spent too much of it because the cleanups are honestly pretty cheap, relatively. And they have been accumulating more money than they've been spending. So that's where you get the balance over $100,000. So one of the things, we do have a need for demolishing some structures, but we're just now getting around to working on those. And an average single-family home is around $45,000. So that cap of $50,000 wouldn't really, we could do one house. This is a third-party contractor we're speaking of. So if we do one house, it's going to wipe out the entire budget for the year. And we have more buildings than we do houses that have a need. So just as an example, the 107 Clemente is one we brought up. It's one of 3 that are on the top of our list right now. It's, I think, 4 stories. So I know these photos are close-ups, but this is the back of the building. So you're looking at the top of it and the bottom of it. So the top photo is the top of the building. The bottom is the bottom. If you look close, I know they're black and white. They're not easy to really tell, but there's a lot of bricks missing. And the windows and doors are kind of coming out. So we've had to fence it off. We've been, more or less keeping an eye on it since 2013, perhaps before that, before me, I'm not sure. And it, we'll say, failed at auction. We tried to auction it when it wasn't too bad, didn't work out, and now it's really our problem again. So that was just an example, and if we want to tie it to this one building, that's fine. I think putting a higher cap on it is ideal, so that it gives us the flexibility. And I could tell you the 3 that we're working on currently. We're actually working on 4 places right now in the city, in-house, and one is 525 Pleasant Street. It's a house, big house. We're working on it. We've already stripped it of all the hazardous materials. Next step is demolition. 28 Cabot, which you'll hear about more, is one I applied for a Attorney General's office grant for, so we got $25,000. But that's not going to take down 28 Cabot. We're still going to need another probably 60 or 70,000 for that. And you have 107 Clemente, and then 56 North Bridge Street is a house down in the flats. It's a store/house. It's been there forever. All of these have been lingering for 10 years or more. They're not new problems really, and I don't know, that's where we're at. So we're looking for either the one-time blessing on taking a larger sum of money out, or just a permanent increase to the cap of $100,000. It's not a thing to come in here and explain to you guys what we need the money for each and every time. There's plenty. I don't have any objections to that, but 100,000 is not gonna pay for 107 Clemente even. We're still gonna have to chip money in there.
Right. Well, I appreciate you reminding us of the purpose that we set the fund up for, because we don't work with these all the time. But we set it up for buttoning up the buildings and using that new material other than plywood.
That's right, securing as well.
Back in the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we did also put demo in there.
Yes.
At that time. So to me, this is perfectly for what we want to do with these funds. I know there's some disagreement on the council about setting them up, but what we found over the years is if we don't have a purpose fund set up, nothing happens. Mm-hmm. So I'm very favorable on this fund, and I'm personally very favorable to increase it to the 100,000, so there's some flexibility, and if you get other money, you can match it with this or whatever. It just seems like it would give you some leverage, and the Board of Health. I don't know. Councilor Murphy?
Yeah, I agree with you, Chairman Bacon. I met with Damien about a month ago, Damien, and, clearly 107 Clemente, without this, 100,000 couldn't be done. And I'm already hearing, and I just actually contacted him about 28 Cabot just the other day. So, to me, I agree. If we can put it at 100,000 and allow them to continue to remove things that need to be removed or secure things that need to be secured without having to, they can give us a report. I'd be fine getting a report. We're taking this down with that. But, I just believe in let's get things done and corrected. And this is a case, I'm hoping that the council will say, we'll raise it to 100,000 and that will be the new limit. And if they need to go farther than that, we can talk about that in future reference. But I certainly hope we go to 100,000 and not having them go back to 50 and then try to come back later on. We need 75,000 and now we got to change the ordinance again, so.
Right. Councilor Leahy?
Thank you. So I just want to make 2 points. Number one, in full disclosure, the building commissioner is my husband, but as we don't have a financial interest in this issue directly, I will be participating in the conversation here. What I am talking about is and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems that the vacant building revolving fund doesn't have a cap for how much can go into it. So do you mind sharing the balance? Do you know what the balance is at this point in time?
We asked it before. I mean, yeah, I thought it was 120 something, but
Sean Gonsalves from Board of Health and myself actually looked at it because he was surprised. It's at 187,000 plus right now.
Yeah. Oh, then let's do the other two buildings.
But I have,
Seriously.
I mean, I have a point to make about the revolving fund. In this instance, we have to be careful because we are putting a fee in regards to our vacant building registration. There's a fee, and when you start adding those fees into our general revenue, it becomes the possibility to be viewed as a tax, and that may not be legal. So that's why we have to make sure that these funds have a specific purpose, that they're not used to raise government revenue, and that there's certain implications with this fee in particular.
So if we use the 187,000 for demolition, we're within the purpose. It would be if we moved it into the general fund, we would be
Correct.
changing
So this
the purpose.
revolving
Gotcha.
fund is kind of a necessity.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it is, and what do we have, the top 10 buildings that have been on the list for how long? Right? So, Counselor Sullivan, are you all set?
Yeah, I just was, you know, I think in most cases, just to make the point really clear, in most cases, we don't like to have money hanging out in revolving funds away from the general fund. But in this case, because of the implications of moving monies into the general fund from these building fees, then it does seem appropriate that they exist only within this vacant building revolving fund and are used in the way that we've designated, yeah.
Okay. Counselor Sullivan?
Yeah, I like the direction the committee's heading, and I just want to emphasize, still to this day, we are, like, this building's been out there for 10 years, all right? We're still taking in more properties that are going to be in need of demolition than we are taking down in a given year, all right? We just went through it last night now with the Springdale Turn Hall. We've put that out for multiple RFPs. It's getting in worse and worse shape. It's becoming a fire hazard to the neighborhood. And now we learn also that the roof is failing, and the roof is transite, which is asbestos shingles. This stuff has to happen at a much faster pace. My only concern would be that people start, this is great, 187,000. We need millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of demolition, that it doesn't curtail from what needs also to come out of the general fund to supplement it. So this doesn't become the only source for the demolition.
Oh, right, right. Point taken. So my question about this order, as we wrote it, we wanted to increase the amount that could be expended, but what we're effectively doing is limiting the amount that can be expended. If we have 187,000 in the fund and we're saying you can spend 100,000, wouldn't we be better off
But maybe we should just say
not
something
limiting it?
like per project, 100, before they have to come in here and create some sort of
Right,
explanation.
but I don't think, because otherwise you'll run it down to 87,000, and then in another year, you'll be back up to 187,000.
Yeah, you'll never be able to pay
Possibly.
it down, but I think,
You know what I mean? And we want to use it, right?
yeah, but I think it should be expended for each project.
It's 100,000 a project.
Is 100,000 isn't going to do it, though, for Clemente Street, right?
they're case by case, but yeah, and it's complex. It's like, orchestrating a lot of avenues, and I have to find all these funds and sort of put them together. And what's the benefit of this revenue source is that there's no restrictions other than the restrictions we place on a meeting. And like with block grant money, it's got to have a purpose and end result, and if not, it comes out of the slums and blights category, which we're limited to, and then we got reporting to the federal government, and even the AGL. Once I used that money on that 28 cabinet, it had to have a purpose and restrictions. So no, it won't do it, but with other money coming in, you know, I've already got all the numbers worked out.
You'll be able to get it done with the 100?
Oh, we can get it done with the
Okay.
100,000, that's where we came with the 100,000.
Okay.
We have a total need of, between those four things I mentioned, 245,000. We currently have 149 through other revenue, whether within my own budget, grant money, block grant money. So that 100,000 will bring it to about the right amount. But there's still more need. You know, it's like you mentioned, the top buildings, 28 Cabot is number 2 on our list, 107 Clemente is number 3. Actually, it's number 1 and number 2. I'm forgetting the top bar on the sheet is the title. So that's number 1 and number 2 buildings, and that's what we're looking to do.
So if we increase it to 100,000, you could still come back for the other money for the other project if you're ready to go? Later
Yeah, I mean,
on,
it's really up
say
to
for
you guys. I'm
Cabot.
not gonna, you know, I know that there's resistance because there's some counselors that want to keep control over it. Again, I have no objection to that. If you want me to come in and say, hey, this is what we're working on next, and can we get a release on it? Not an issue at all for me.
Yeah.
But, you know, no limit at all, it probably wouldn't be it'd probably be a non-issue, because honestly, I think this balance has accumulated over a couple of years.
Yeah.
We're not taking in $187,000 a year.
Yeah.
I don't think we're taking in $100,000 a year.
All right.
So if we spent it all this
You
year,
won't make it an issue if it isn't one.
100's
Council
not,
Murphy?
yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I was thinking, if we did 100,000 and we were able to amend it and say per project, and I don't know if that's would be
Well,
legal or not,
Might
but,
want to, might not want to, right?
but, you know, then if they did have the 87,000 left and they knew they could do, I mean, I've got people telling me, there's homeless people going into 28 Cabot Street and breaking in, and they're worried about other things going on in there. And plus the fact that it's obviously a building hazard as well. So again, if we were doing it by project and we did 100,000 on Clemente Street, and whichever of those other buildings was able to be done with the 87, if we were not restricting it to 100,000 a year,
Right.
100,000 a project,
Right.
obviously they couldn't.
So we're just leaving it?
Yeah.
All right. Counselor Bartley?
Well, I think I'm ready to make a motion on number 5, and I just want to throw something that we put into legal form. I think the other motion on 4 should be given leave to withdraw, because it's kind of repetitive.
Yeah.
So if the chair wouldn't mind, I'm going to make a motion that we take agenda item 5 and we put into legal form for the next city council meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then, I'm sorry.
And do we want to make that amendment that it's expended per project, up to $100,000?
I'll second that.
Per project?
Yeah.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then agenda item 4 should be
Let's get
complied with.
Second.
Just
All in favor?
if I just make sure 107 Clemente is what we'll be doing though, right? With
That's the plan, yeah,
with
we
the
don't,
100,000.
we have the funding right now for the other projects, so it shouldn't be an issue. But if we needed 10,000 or 20,000 to make up some unforeseen circumstance, that'd be good to have, but yeah, we're moving forward on all of them at the same time.
And I know you were working with the housing authority about trying to get parking for Boudreaux Boucher there for the senior.
For the towers, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for Clemente.
That's still in the plans?
Well, I'm
Running off
going to
topic
push
here.
them,
Same building?
Yeah, can we move on? 'Cause we-
yeah,
We have
it
people
is
waiting.
part of the plan to have that conversation,
Okay.
keep them moving on it.
I just want to clarify, so I know what I'm drafting. Right now, the ordinance reads that there's a cap of $50,000 per year, so we're going to put similar language to the other revolving funds that you can expend basically to the amount that's in the fund, but any project over 100,000 would need council approval, or?
That's right,
Yep.
Okay.
that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, if I can
Good
make,
translation, Crystal.
right, all right, thank you. I can make a motion to suspend our rules and take up 9 and 10 as a
Thank you.
package.
Second.
Order, take up 9 and 10 as a package.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oops, sorry.
That was you.
Yeah, I don't know if I did that or you. Item 9, filed by me, create an ordinance to post signs similar to the one below. Say no to panhandlers along business corridors and at major intersections. This idea was provided by a constituent, and this order is filed in response to concerns from residents and businesses, and I attached an article that talked about it at more depth. Item 10, filed by Counselor Sullivan, that signs be placed at city entrances and strategic intersections which shall read, "Please donate only to recognized charities." I referenced these orders at our last city council meeting when we were having yet again another discussion about panhandlers and the effect it's having on people trying to drive in our city and do business in our city. And since nothing has happened with the commission that was formed, here we are. Counselor Sullivan, you have the floor.
Yeah, I'm fine also with the one in number 9, say no to panhandlers. The reason I've got the other one, please donate only to recognized charities, is it does eliminate some of the opposition we've heard from the public about us singling out a group of people, getting other outside groups involved, protesting against it. This one seems pretty much to the point we're not targeting any individuals or anything else like that. Like, they have the same right to hold a sign that says, "Give me some money." We have a right to put up a sign saying, "Please donate to recognized charities." We're not telling anybody not to give anything to anybody. That's the only difference between the two. But I'd be fine with either way. I just think the wording on the other one will be less controversial, but it'll get to the point. People getting off the highways, people know what we're talking about when we say something like that, and those signs are in the vicinity. And if they go ahead and give, they go ahead and give, but.
Does Attorney Barnes want to weigh in on this, or? Under suspension?
I mean, I can't speak for the public and, how this will be perceived. I can say government speech has a little bit more leeway than other speech. So, I mean, y'all are free to do what you want. Neither one of these appears to be unconstitutional, but.
We still have to get the mayor to pay for the signs.
Say that again?
Neither one of these, or 9 or 10, I mean, government speech, we are allowed to put up signs, so.
Okay, so, and something benign is I think if I was going to vote on this, I would vote on number 10. That would just be my personal preference, because it just seems more of a starting point. It seems pretty benign. The City of Holyoke, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I kind of like the verbiage of the way it's written. I don't really want to change it to, please don't. We encourage donations to recognized charities. It's something. I mean, maybe that's not even right. Just this is even good the way. Please donate only to recognized charities. I think that's. I mean, I can't really right now come up with a better phrase than that. So if you feel that that's benign enough and would pass muster, then I mean, I'm willing to give it a shot.
Anyone else?
I agree with Councilor Bartley, and I think the language there is, we do have charities that we are trying to support people, and in reality, many of the cases, I think the people that are in need, but are getting some support by being on the street, are probably not being encouraged or forced, if you will, to go to our charities that support them. So if it was able to take some people who are desperate and in need to go to the support services that we have, I think that would be a plus. If it's 5%, 10%, whatever it is, those people would be taking advantage of the charities that we have, and hopefully ending up with a better life. So I think the message is a good message. And it's not to hurt, but to try to help.
It's an affirmative message. And I mean, I want to compliment our police department and the social services that they've collaborated with, because they've personally and physically gone out to these people, many who are regulars, and people know who they are. And so that there has not been a lack of outreach and alternatives offered. And we do have a lot of good services that can be brought to bear. And our Veterans officer has reached out to people when that's a possibility also. So I do want to put that out there in that way. And I would support Counselor Sullivan's order also. Counselor Leahy?
Ahead of me? Or not?
I did, but you can go first. Go ahead.
So I just wanted to say, I really like number 10 in particular, because I think that it allows people who want to donate and don't have a problem, giving money to panhandlers to continue to do that. But I think that people get angry and irritated when they feel like they have to say no, or that. And so when they have to say no, I think they feel bad about themselves that they can't do something, or they get angry that that this person is here in some way. And I think that this language kind of gives them an out where they could say, I do donate to recognized charities, and so I don't have to donate here. And then I think that takes some of the anger out of the situation.
Counselor Bartley?
Mike, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah.
I'll go after Mike.
Counselor Sullivan?
Yeah, this is about as candy-coated as I could get, right?
I could tell. You worked on it a lot.
Well, we've got to start doing something,
We do.
and this is a start. If this cuts the amount of money that is given to the panhandlers, which has been proven to us through all the social service agencies, there are some that are in desperate need. 9 out of 10 are addicts or scammers. All right, that's been proven to us over and over and over again. For the 1 out of 10 that is in desperate need, by giving them more money and more money and more money, we're enabling them not to seek the services that are out there, or making it easier for them not to get those services. All right? So I think this is a huge step in the right direction. It also shows the public something concrete that after years and years and years of debating now, we're giving something a try. If it works, if it slows down and cuts back, when it ceases to become lucrative, first of all, that's going to wipe out the scammers right away when it's not lucrative, and we really get down to the affected base that really need help.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Do you want to make a motion, somebody?
No, I just want to make a couple of quick points.
Oh,
I'll make a
Counselor
motion. Yeah, so I want to, just to my friend Counselor Sullivan, I think Counselor Bacon made a point that to appropriate funds, you have to have the mayor do it. So Counselor, you might want to consider filing a separate order for Tuesday's meeting to encourage the mayor to appropriate, or maybe for a subsequent meeting in May, to encourage the mayor to appropriate funds. But as you know, City Council can't appropriate funds, but what City Council can do, City Council can set up revolving funds. So there's another option at our disposal that we have to get our point across if necessary. So we can do that. My hope is that that's not necessary. I think the main point is that the time for finger pointing is past. I think we've got to emphasize, as I said before, that we are a welcoming community. This is not about being punitive, especially to the population to whom this is generally directed, and we encourage them to seek as much help as possible, especially advocating those areas to whom donations are made, and we want them to reach out and find the services. I hope that's clear to my fellow councilors and to the mayor, and that we take appropriate steps. And I think this is a really good first step, and I thank Councilor Sullivan for filing it. So with that in mind, that said, and we thank the police and the human service organizations that are out there in the streets doing it every day and reaching out. So that being said, make a motion to put this into legal form.
Second.
Item 10.
Item 10.
All in favor? Aye.
And then item 9, I say just a motion complied with.
That's fine. Is there a second?
Order comply with, sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, sure.
So, I mean, I'm looking at this as that this is just a sign. It's not, there's no penalty for doing it. So
Correct.
do we really need an ordinance? I
To
mean,
put up a sign.
we need an ordinance to
Well,
put up
actually,
a city
no,
sign?
I think Councilor Murphy brings up a good point. So if there was, we could put signs up, whatever, but there's no penalty for donating. There's no consequence for donating. So it's not really a amendment to the traffic ordinance in any way. It's just putting up a sign.
Right, but we do the same thing. Well, whatever.
I mean, I don't know.
Are we using, we had created locations when we discussed this a while ago, so,
City entrances and strategic intersections.
right, I don't know if you recall that engineering, I think, had given us those location points. Otherwise, we have to send this to engineering and I have to know where all these signs are going. But I think if we want to use the locations from the last time something similar came up,
Be
I
happy
can
with
use that.
that, wouldn't we?
Yeah, and
I was gonna say, just as a first step, I mean, this is kind of a fluid situation, so let's see if there's funds appropriate to I mean, we do the signs in-house anyhow, so I don't really think we need to
We should have
appropriate
sent
much.
this to public safety then, if we don't need an ordinance.
Well, but it's here now, and so.
So
it's
why
here
don't
now.
we-
So
but
I think we can use the list use the list that was generated. I mean, why,
Second.
that's not
But
overcomplicated.
I do think to make it formal, since we've gone through this process, we might as well put it into ordinance form.
I don't think that, because it doesn't tell people to do, it's really just, we're telling the DPW to create a sign. We're not creating a law for like the public to abide by, because there's no real legal consequence to donating. People can still donate. We're just giving the advice. Like, it's like a please, I don't know, even please curb your dog has an actual fine attached to it, so.
Well, the only reason I'm not disagreeing, I'm just saying that the council president said directly to the maker of the order, this has to go to ordinance on the night, and he was not contradicted by the law department at that time, which the law department could have contradicted him at that time. He said it, you were here right here, he said it, he looked directly at the maker of the order, said it's got to go to ordinance because it's a sign. So whether he was referencing, he's been here longer than me, whether he was referencing a specific ordinance, he didn't enunciate it, but he said that. So if the law department comes back with a communication and says we don't need an ordinance, okay, then we'll defer to the council on that. But it's right now it's unclear. Thank you.
So, under suspension of rules.
I mean, it just depends if we want to know where all the locations are so that we can amend it, whether you don't like this location, let's change it to here, then you would have it in ordinance.
Let's
There you
do it
go.
in ordinance.
There you go. Based upon the list that Mike came up with.
So do you need an amendment to that original motion to put this language into legal form and to utilize the locations previously submitted by the engineer? Do you need that as an amendment?
It is.
Okay.
But
right.
I'll restate the motion as said by the committee chair.
All right, so and
That's my motion.
all right, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I think Council Sullivan did.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay, fine with the vote. I just had a question about the finance part of it. We've put up other signs, whether they're traffic signs, but we've put up ones for littering, illegal dumping. They didn't have to go to the mayor for funding, they just went to the DPW and came out of the DPW budget.
That's right, Mike.
You're not gonna have to.
If there's the
Why would this
money.
be different? Why would we
I'm
have?
not saying it is different.
If they
Mike.
have the money.
It shouldn't be different.
It shouldn't be, Mike.
Okay.
It's only if they don't have the money. Like, I'm still waiting for the sign, for the stop signs on Southampton Road that were approved a year ago. You know, it's
Just a point of
about the
order.
money.
If I could, can I just, this is on point. So at the intersection of Whiting Farms and Northampton Street by Calvary Cemetery, by Kmart Plaza, this is 2 Fridays ago, to my friend Counselor Anderson Burgos, who works over there. And this is 2 Fridays ago. And, Pat's the panhandler. His name's Pat. He's a panhandler right there, and he's there every single day. And I just happened to be going by, and it was Officer Lopez and a gentleman from the Building Commission who was there working with Pat the panhandler, and Pat was they piled up trash behind 6-8 Gilman. He was putting it all in bags with Officer Lopez, all being observed, but all friendly. Within 4 hours, a sign was posted to the tree right behind 6-8 Gilman, no trespassing. So that was a message to the panhandlers, and that was put up within 4 hours. And we didn't even pass anything. It was just Officer Lopez contacted the police department, contacted the DPW, and the sign was posted to a tree. It's a city sign, no trespassing. And And Pat and the rest of the panhandlers that congregate there have respected it for the last 2 weeks. And they have, I mean, it was a garbage bag 6 feet high, filled with all sorts of stuff. So it can work. That's just to make Councilor Sullivan feel better, that, you know, the signs are, you know, we do them in-house, they can go up.
I believe they'll make a lot of people go away.
Okay. Counselor Anderson-Burke.
Before we close on this one, I really have to express, I know this is a very touchy subject and a lot of people have concerns and stuff like that. And I'm for one, I try to be very fair. And on my way home from work, one of the panhandlers that was at the medium, she ran out. I almost hit her. And to me, this is a huge public safety.
It is, I've been saying that
So
for years.
at what time do we come together as a community and realize it's not just about the panhandlers, it's about safety as well?
It happens at the mall, too.
Yeah, people need to realize that. We're not trying to attack these people. I feel sorry for them, I do. But I also would feel worse if I hit one of them. For crying out loud, this is public safety issue. It's not just about us attacking or anyone attacking any panhandlers. And we need to come together as a community and understand that.
Thank you. Okay.
I'm done. Yep.
All right. Thanks. Now you have, is there another order on here that you're interested in too, I think? Anyway, we'll go back to regular order.
Motion to take number 2 off the table.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 2, filed by Councilors Leahy and Bartley. Any city department receiving grant money as approved by the city council per Mass General Law or any other authorizing criteria shall within a reasonable period of time, but no later than 60 days from the conclusion of said grant, generate a detailed report that matches the planned outcomes with the documented results. The report should be submitted to the city clerk and forwarded to the next available city council agenda. Once received and approved by city council, the mayor shall have the report posted publicly. At our last meeting, we had discussion. We asked Crystal to put some legal language forward to us, which she did send out previous to the meeting. I have a printed copy here. Has everybody seen it? Okay. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I'm okay with it, but if somebody wants to amend it, let me know.
Counselor Leahy, have you seen it?
I don't have it.
You don't have it?
Oh, here it is.
You got
It
it?
was from Friday. Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I did see it come through.
Do you want the hard copy?
No, I have it here.
It's easier to look at, maybe. I don't know.
We have glasses.
Look at the nice big font too. How's that?
Got my cheaters.
Sure. The one thing that I would say is, you know, do we need to designate some sort of enforcing, like an enforcement officer, like someone who's going to be able to watch the clock on the 60 days or something like that?
Hey, Siri.
Who knows besides, would the auditor know? Or does just the department head know under suspension of rules?
So I talked with our auditor about this, and I think she does have a report that gets done yearly, I want to say, that talks about our grants. So I think that part of the reporting gets done, but I don't know what details that looks like.
I mean, I wonder if it would come up in the monthly, because she's...
It might depend what kind of a grant it is. You know, if it's a reimbursement grant, then they have to put the things out to get the money.
So I had talked to Alicia Zoller as well about whether she had suggestions for any language, because so many grants go through there, but and a lot of reporting requirements are done depending on what kind of grant you have, whether it's state, federal, but then you get into private grants, and I mean, we run the gamut of all different grants that we get. So any really specific language we kind of shied away from, which is why this is pretty broad, because they all have their own reporting requirements. So we didn't want to contradict any of that. But I mean, without putting anyone in charge, I'd want to ask them first how they feel about it.
Well, you know, if we're only asking for reports on those grants that the city council approves, then I think really the person who should be keeping the clock is our administrative assistant.
Yeah, I agree.
So we'll have to ask Ryan to set up some sort of tracking.
I mean, he can track it.
Yeah, because I
That shouldn't be
think-
too hard.
Otherwise,
It's just an
it's gonna be
Excel
hard to
spreadsheet.
pick a
Pretty straightforward,
person
I think.
to say, you know,
So,
yeah.
so,
And this way is, if we have this in ordinance form, it gives us the ability where we don't even have it now. I mean, we do, but it's less official to say, please come in and tell us.
Yep.
so section 2 should read something to the effect that the tracking of these grants shall be the domain of the city council's administrative assistant. Not the domain, but you know what I mean, just whatever.
Responsibility.
Yeah, responsibility. Whatever it is, it sounds right. That would be my friendly amendment.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
All right.
Nothing.
So-
Nothing.
So what I'm just saying is, I'm adding tracking of the grants will be the responsibility of the administrative assistant to the city council.
There you go.
Okay.
Pretty straightforward.
Okay, so is there a motion on the draft as amended?
Move into legal form.
Motion put in legal form and present to the city council at the next meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries 5-0. Okay, on to 3.
Motion to take 3 off the table.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Filed by Counselor Bartley, the city council amended its ordinances to create a committee to study the cost and benefits of involved with the City of Holyoke establishing its own animal control facility. The expectation is that the committee, once created, will produce a report to be reviewed by the Board of Health, City Council, Mayor, and other relevant departments. I might have jumped the gun on this, but I thought we were just gonna go sort of along the same lines as the Whiting Reservoir Commission. Counselor Bartley?
Yeah, I work with, and I understand that this may not be the greatest thing in the world, but I just, you know, since we cut the budget, I just want to, I'm hopeful that there be an interest in the public who's interested in animals and trying to get us some feedback. And so I worked with Crystal last week, and I presented to Crystal my thoughts, which basically I used the Whiting Street Reservoir ordinance, 80% of it, and just changed the 20% that made it more relevant to animal control. And I think Crystal's working on it. So, Crystal, you still have it, correct? Oh, okay, so have you sent out copies to the ordinance members yet? 'Cause I don't remember if we got that far.
I haven't. I got it from you, and I didn't know where we were going from there, but, I mean, assuming it came right out of Whiting Farms, I don't know that it needs much.
I don't think it does. I tried to make sure it was straightforward for you. So, I guess I'm of the opinion that, I mean, we can't really vote on this clearly, but if, you know, we took it up, maybe we can table it for 30 days, and then when Chris has a chance, you know, she won't need 30 days,
We'll
but.
just table it
We can table it for the next meeting. I mean,
for
I
the
can just.
23rd?
Okay, I don't want to burden, all
Okay.
right, well, if you think
It's
that's,
already done. I mean, I just,
it pretty well is,
if
right?
this is what you wanted, then it's your draft. I mean,
Yeah.
the best way to do it is to come here and send it out to the committee members.
Yeah, just after this meeting, we send out to the committee, and then we'll have a chance to everybody can sort of look at it between now and then, and we can just discuss it or do whatever we have to on next
All right.
Tuesday.
All right, all right. Is there a motion?
Motions to table.
Second.
All in favor?
All right,
Aye.
Okay, so to the 23rd.
I guess so.
Okay.
And then motion takes, suspend the rules, take 6, 7, and 8 as a package.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we have had a number of sign orders in the jacket. I think mine was over a year old or about a year old. So what I thought, because I do realize we will have to have a public hearing because this will affect zoning, but I wanted to put all of them out just to see if there was a particular pleasure of the committee, and we already acted on 9 and 10, so that took care of that. And so I just wanted to see, we have one order filed by Counselor Leahy. I actually still have to read all these in, don't I? So item 6, which was filed by Counselors McGee, Leahy, McGivern, Sullivan, Tallman, and Valentin, was the order that the city council revisit the new sign ordinance and place a moratorium on its enforcement. in light of the ACLU concerns with the language, it is important to make sure rights are not violated. So that's where we've been sitting now for a while. So in effect, we kind of don't have any ordinance in effect in that regard. That was a narrow focus, though. It's not the sign ordinances in their entirety. It was a portion of it, okay?
Yep,
So
but
then,
this one portion is under moratorium.
yeah.
Yeah.
So then in item 7, the order that you filed in the fall, Councilor Leahy, that the City Council Ordinance Committee do a comprehensive review of the city's sign ordinance alongside technical support and feedback from the Planning Board and Legal Department. That would be a very broad approach under which we could look at the one that has the moratorium on it and anything else that's currently in the sign ordinances, okay? And then item 8, I just think that was a leftover because one was to put a moratorium and the other was to rescind it. So this was still in the jacket because I guess it hadn't been independently
Well, I mean,
closed out.
we would need to have a public hearing anyway for it to be rescinded, but we wanted to signal to the ACLU and to who I was
Right,
representing.
relative to the court.
Yes,
So right now, it sits in moratorium,
yep, that section,
the temporary sign section.
yes.
So it seemed to me maybe the best approach to take would be to take up the broad
We could do
order.
everything. It would
and
be.
then go section by section, because there's been a lot of things that have come up over the last 5 or 6 years that people want to look at
Yeah.
in the sign.
And I think that, if I may, the planning board has done a comprehensive review, so they already have recommendations that they'd like to present to us. Doesn't mean that we have to adopt them all.
Right.
But I think they've done a comprehensive review and could present suggested changes section by section
Right, and we do have that language
somewhere,
from
right?
them. Yes. I believe it's still in the jacket.
Oh, okay.
I think it is.
That would be great.
So I mean, there's no sort of point in recreating the wheel. I mean, we'd have to open a new public hearing and they could review it, but they wouldn't necessarily have to redo it all.
No, but I think we should have them in to explain
Well, oh,
what they're thinking.
right. Counselor Anderson Burgos?
No, I was just gonna say, we can discuss it, but we can't make any changes, right? Until we
Correct.
have a,
Until we
Correct.
notice.
Public
But
meeting.
because, so, and just to be clear about what I was thinking, we had a potpourri of orders in there, so I just pulled them all out so that we can dispose of them in one way or another.
okay.
You know, so I wanted to see what the will of the committee is. Do you want to go the broad-based one? Do, you know, if we don't need, if we're going to take it up and look at the whole thing, then we would clean up all these orders by that process. Counselor
Yeah,
Bartley?
if we're gonna do this, I'd rather just do the broad one first.
Yeah.
Now, 6 and 8 are reactions to an order that I filed that was passed unanimously, and then there was a suit which named me about 4 times in the suit, and I don't even know where that stands. I strongly doubt that any member of this committee has read that suit besides me, or read the complaint, I should say. I strongly doubt it. And so, but I'm going to be fully prepared to discuss all of that the next time. And I encourage any counselor that's going to vote on this to read that suit, read that complaint. That's all it is. It's a complaint. I don't know where that stands in the hopper. I do know that there was an immediate reaction because there's a certain number of people that come up to the microphone, and that's their right. But it was under 10, and so it wasn't a storm on City Hall. And the feedback I got through email was hold your ground. And so, but I am more than happy to look at agenda item 7 and have a more comprehensive review. And I would, for one, I'm just one person, would rather start there out of fairness, because we did pass that unanimously, so every person in this room voted aye. And so then we get people running up to the microphone, and this is just me talking, and those are both late filed orders, filed that night, I'm not saying it was a run for political cover, but I'm just saying they were not put on any written agenda. Neither of these orders is on a written agenda, because they weren't. They were late filed that night, the two of them. That's okay, but now that the chairwoman, the chair of this committee has let this sort of simmer down, which I greatly appreciate, I think the agenda item 7, which I'm going to get behind, and I will work as diligently as possible to make an ordinance that's fair and as straightforward as possible. So that's what I want to do. So I want to work with the committee to do just that, what agenda item 7 says. I'm going to have my input as to why I filed my order, while the law department worked with me on it. We went through it, and then I had at least 7 public hearings in planning. I attended half of them, received no negative feedback at one, none of them. In fact, the planning board members were encouraging me, working with me. And this is all on tape, this is all tape recorded, and if any member of this committee wants to listen to the tapes, they can go do that. It wasn't until the last night, with the 7th public hearing, where there was a full room on an unrelated matter, that this became a political hot button. It's all good, but that's the background, just to the committee, how we got to this point. So, but I'll finish here. So if the chair would kindly, I mean, I'm just one person, but I'd like to start at 7, and then if 6 and 8 are washed away by 7, so be it, because, or amended somehow, so be it.
I mean, I'm a little more confused about this because I wasn't around, I think, when some of these things happened. So if I'm reading this correctly, 6 and 8 relate to a specific portion of a sign ordinance?
Temporary signs.
Temporary signs.
And 7 is just to review all the sign ordinances.
Which
So
makes sense, yeah.
Correct.
I would agree with,
Of which number, the reference
6
in
and 8.
number 6 is included.
Okay.
It is part of our sign ordinances.
then I would
in
definitely,
ordinance.
okay, then I would definitely agree that we should be doing and get the planning board and law department and really discuss the whole ordinance and see what we want to amend and shouldn't amend, and then go from there.
Right, and because there's other areas of the ordinance to be looked at as well, potentially.
It's a good order, and I say
Yeah.
let's get behind it and fix it.
So, okay, so I'd like to entertain a motion that we will move forward with advertising for a public hearing relative to item 7.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now I'm gonna have to coordinate with Ryan, because Ryan's gonna have to find money, because we're running out of money. He's
We're broke.
robbed every pool of money for the ads
We're
he's
broke.
run so far. So it may not be immediate, but I will communicate with him to see what's going on with the replenishment of that.
Yeah, and actually, I feel like I heard some information recently about public notices, that if we are posting it to the website, we may not have to publish because newspaper records are becoming far and few between, so.
I thought it was a law, though.
Well, I mean, I think I would love,
It's a bad law, but it's a law.
maybe, I don't know, we should ask for some more guidance on that in general. I'm happy to file an order if you want to, do some research and come back to us with a opinion of some sort, but I think that things that I've been hearing have suggested that we may not have to pay for advertising anymore.
I haven't heard anything if you want to send me something, I'd love to look into that. I haven't heard anything by way of publication in newspapers for public hearings. I know our meetings in general are all through the website now.
And that's
that was
okay.
something we adopted. But as far as notifying for public hearings, it's still that 2 weeks, 2 separate hearings, a week apart. But I know I discussed a little bit with someone today about switching newspapers to maybe save some cost.
Well then, yeah, that might be another.
So before we adjourn, can I have a motion to table items 6 and 8?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And now the final motion?
To adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Linda.